Yeah.
And he thought that was pretty fun. And so we're here. We do have sponsors. First, as always, let's try to read my notes instead of ad lib. That goes poorly.
I'll turn off my camera so you don't feel pressured.
Okay, good. Shane Kelley, Small Town Xotics, breeds ball pythons, leopard geckos. He has little bitty locality boas now. Hognose snakes. He will be at Tinley. I don't know if this is a spoiler, but he will have gifts for you. Free gifts. So you should go by his table, check out what he has for sale, and see what the gifts could be. March Tinley, Small Town Xotics. He's also been very good and diligent about his YouTube channel. So if you're like, wonder what Shane's doing today, what would Shane do? Go check it out. Check your bracelet, check it out. Small Town Xotics. Bravo Zulu, she has updated her website with new het puzzle combos. So if you are interested in puzzle, you're excited about puzzle action, check it out. She also mentioned 15% off for pre-orders. They're vending the Fort Wayne Show Me Show on February 15th. So if you're a local yokel and you want to swing by and say hi, check that out. Bravo Zulu ball pythons. Stoneage ball pythons. I don't know if people noticed from Instagram, a tree hit his house. So he'd really appreciate if you swung by the Pack Noirs on the 27th and 28th and bought some of his snakes. You know, hopefully insurance is taking care of the tree part, but he would still like to sell snakes in that way. Stoneage ball pythons. Powerhouse ball pythons. Andrew. He's got ball pythons. He's got leopard geckos. He's got stemmies. He's got rodents. He's got Gopher Coco. He's a man of many passions. He will also be at Pack Noirs, and he will be on the reptile auction here on the Holdback Rack on February 17th. So we love all of that. Thank you, Andrew of Powerhouse Pythons. Great family snakes. They still have a triple het DG VPI Pied and double VPI het DG stuff or double het stuff on their Morph Market. 10% off. Wow, what a bargain. If you mention Holdback Rack podcast to them when you purchase. We love that. We love deals. I don't know how long that lasts, so message quickly. Finally, I think this is the last one. Yeah, Chris, BNS Reptilia. He knows the spanking's coming. I do see new things on his Morph Market, but I think some things got bought. So if you want to check that out, he'll be at the Bloomberg PA show on February 3rd and the Hamburg show in the new location in Morgantown, PA on February 24th. I'm assuming it is not a stinky basketball gym this time. That would be a strict improvement for Hamburg anyway. So check out Chris, BNS Reptilia, rare colubrids, North American colubrids, longicauda, some ball pythons, bloods. What else does he have? Scaleless corn snakes, gross, but they can't all be winners. Chris, BNS Reptilia, thank you for sponsoring the show. And Glenn, are you alive? There we go. He's back.
Yeah. Okay, so my first question is, do we know at the new Hamburg what the Nile crocodile situation is going to be like?
Because all right, hold on, stop. You're a robot.
Oh my gosh. Okay, do you want me to leave?
No, I don't know what happened. Just plug your mic in and out or something. It's almost like a cord is loose.
No. Okay. How are we doing now?
No.
Still
Sorry.
Still bad? Okay.
He's gone. Dang it. How's chat doing? I'll talk to chat. Okay. Did you plug it in all the way?
I think. Okay. How are we doing?
It sounds good. It does sound like it's turned to not a condensed. Talk some more.
Okay. So let me see here. Because it was using my MacBook. How are we doing now?
Much better. Sounds like it's in your microphone. All right, good job. We did it. Look, here's your buddies. They're here. Hey. Don't disappoint them.
Oh no, Lucas wouldn't call me every single day if he didn't want to be disappointed.
Thanks all the channel members. Chris is here. Banana, Canes, other Chris. We have many Chris's. Very popular name. Jennifer, Lilac, James.
Isn't your husband named Chris?
I know, they breed. Oh
This
my
is
God.
just going splendidly.
All right, audio only. You might want to check this one out in person.
That was good. Okay.
That was good content. Emma.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, brother.
I am a professional. I guarantee it.
To start this off real quick, I'm not a retic keeper or breeder, and you're also not.
And neither am
breeder.
I. I don't know why you had me on.
So because like I could have picked Eric or one of the boys from the retic lounge, but I was like, maybe you're less invested in it because you're not a breeder, right?
No.
So you're willing to make calls that are like, oh yeah, it's probably kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
You don't have any financial investment in it. So I was like, this would be a first step one. Maybe other people can come later, but maybe you'll spit some facts. Because from the outside, it looks crazy.
It is crazy. That's not an illusion.
Okay, good. All right. And then if people disagree with me or Chris, or sorry, Glenn, I'm so sorry. We just talked about too many Chris's. Don't like downvote and then disappear. I would like an actual discussion about why our opinions are wrong or why you think we don't know what we're talking about or something. A lot of times they just get like rogue downvotes, and I'm like, maybe they actually had something to contribute or whatever.
I don't think that's going to be an issue. The kind of boogeyman that you're thinking of really only exists on these more archaic Facebook forums. There is a clear shift happening in the retic world for those who are paying attention. You just have to be willing to listen.
To like ethical keeping?
Yeah. I mean, if you look for it, it's there, but good luck finding it between, the Samson Pruitts.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, let me just give you some context. So I breed boas.
Oh, I want to talk to you about it.
That big, right? 6 to 8 feet, females. That's not crazy, but it's big. So when I go to sell them, people are like, no, I could never buy a female ever. So I'm like, how do people even sell super dwarf retics is my first question, let alone mainlands. But we can start with like the first most logical question is, where are all the mainland retics in the country?
Freezers. That's the honest answer. I'll quote Garrett. He used to work at Prehistoric Pets, and I think he said at one time he sold maybe 10,000 retics, and he knew.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're crackling now.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's a different kind of robot sound.
Different issue. Okay.
So I'm so sorry.
Are we doing better?
Sorry, no.
No. Okay.
All right, try now.
How are we doing?
Sorry, no.
Okay, how about now?
Okay, yeah, we can do the room ambient MacBook one. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So Garrett Hartle has a story about how he used to work at Prehistoric Pets, and he sold something like 10,000 retics. 10 years later, he only knew where maybe a dozen ended up as adults or that were still alive. So the vast majority of people who do buy retics aren't fully prepared for the size that they're going to get, or they don't care for them properly, X, Y, and Z. The vast majority just don't live to see adulthood. And those who do live to see adulthood, it's a very shortened lifespan. You've got animals that can live in zoos for 30, 40 years, but in captivity, a 10-year-old is something to talk about.
Right. Like I sold feeder rabbits, feeder chickens, feeder jumbo rats. Right. So obviously like big snake keepers would come visit, but I would often get I would sell them like a bag of jumbo rats. And then they'd be like, look, you want to see my snakes on my phone? And I'm like, sure, whatever, dude. And so they would show me a crumpled up 12-foot retic in a CB70, an accordion style. And I'm like, that's so great. You're like, okay. And that was probably a super dwarf mix, though. So if all the big ones are sort of being phased out, to put it nicely, not
that's true,
humane euthanasia or not, I don't know, right? are the dwarf and super dwarf crosses that are kind of big also having the same problems?
Yeah. So how's my audio? Good.
Yes.
Okay. Yay. So yes, we're seeing the same issues. Fortunately, it's a little bit better just because of the marketing that's gone into them. Um, but Eric Lee, for example, has a 37.5% super dwarf that's 18 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you're talking about these dwarf and super dwarf crosses, they can get mainland sized. And just because an animal is more expensive doesn't guarantee it's going to get the care it deserves. So
Right. So what I know what the like caging standards are for boas, right? Where they're like, the long side should be as close to their full stretched out length as possible, but maybe like minimum 75%. What is the current standard? Let me air quote that one for big snakes.
Standard. The standard has been the same for the last 20 years, unfortunately. 8-foot vision cages for adult females.
No matter how long they are?
Essentially, sometimes if you'll get, a keeper who is actually concerned or has a 20-foot snake, they'll try to get a bigger one. But unfortunately, it's 8-foot vision cages. But that is changing. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom because it's very easy to. But for example, there's someone in the UK named Dougie Smith, and he builds these entire elaborate rooms for his retics, and they're beautiful. The animals can fully stretch out, and he gets a lot of interactions on those posts. Where if you see a snake that takes up, half of its enclosure when it's coiled in an 8-foot cage, it's hard to defend that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, people. Let me just put it this way: we'll make fun of ball python people for keeping in a tub, but usually the tub is 75% of their length.
Yes, yeah.
Just
we like
saying.
to make fun of ball python people, but historically we are even more guilty when it comes to caging sizes. But it's changing.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Do you think there's some sort of actual predictability in super dwarf cross sizes that means that you can guarantee 10 feet or something?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I'm glad you asked. So it becomes very important for super dwarf keepers and breeders because in some states like Ohio, you can't own a snake longer than 12 feet. So if you get this, cute little super dwarf cross at a show and think, oh, it'll be, 12 feet, I can keep it legally, and then all of a sudden it's 15 feet, you're in a problem. So obviously the number one indicator of size is genetics. So if you want a small snake, get a pure super dwarf. Even a pure super dwarf female at old age can get 10 feet. Generally we say 6 to 8 feet for males, 8 to 10 feet for females. And then when it comes to crosses, obviously the percentage of super dwarf generally indicates that it's going to be smaller. That's nowhere near guaranteed though.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are you I'm hearing snap crackle pop again.
Again?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Let's oscillate back to the MacBook microphone. Okay,
sorry.
Bad audio, whatever.
What's the ideal reasonable size enclosure for a retic?
Okay, Lucas. Thank you for asking that question. I definitely didn't text him beforehand to ask questions, so thank you for bailing me out. This is a little bit of a suck-up answer, but I would say very similar to how Lucas does it. He's got, I think his biggest female's around 14 foot in a 10-foot long cage, 3.5 feet deep, and I think 3 feet tall. That way the animal is still, I would say, a third of the size when it's curled up, maybe a quarter of the cage. So when you're talking about breeder setups, very similar to ball pythons, it would be great to have everything in a 4x2x2, but for breeders, that's just unreasonable at this point, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So you have to measure out what is going to be the benefit to the snake and what's going to be the benefit to the keeper. So for a mainland breeder, honestly, something like a 12 to 15 foot long cage, in my eyes, seems reasonable. However, that's probably, it would be unreasonable in a lot of the old school keepers' minds.
Right. To me, it would be reasonable to buy a shed, a tough shed,
Yeah.
put in a mini split, and put it in your yard, and just be like, this room is now your cage. Because if you think about like their ability to move up vertically, like on a snake that big, even climbing up on a shelf isn't that big of a deal. They would need to climb higher to like actually use their muscles.
Yeah.
This is a problem with boas too, because they're semi-arboreal.
And they're lazy.
Yeah, they grow up into a snake that's much more fossorial. But you see big ass retics in trees.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Big. They're like tree dragons, basically. Just saying.
There's a reason that they can eat people completely and then still go crawl up a tree. Well,
right.
Maybe that's a little dramatic, but still.
Kagan says, I feel like it's becoming more common with mainlands that specific morph combos are being produced and those hatchlings are being sold back to other retic people who have experience with mainlands. Okay, let's talk about that. Of a clutch of mainlands, how many are sold? Period.
That's a hard answer. So it really depends on the clutch, because you can have a clutch of purple albino retics that sell for $150. You might get fortunate and sell some at a show, but if there's a clutch of 50, they've got to think critically of how many are actually being sold, and then where those, if you were to sell all 50, where they end up. What happens to them afterwards, I don't know, but some people do have luck selling all 50. There is a overseas market. Bob Clark is someone who's really been able to utilize that, and Jay was several years ago. But in the U.S., especially for mainlands, it's really small. Kagan knows all about
that. Lisa asks, and we're taking messages from chat too, because I just want some sort of explanation here. How can people say they have 37%? Like, what does that come from? It's totally fake. Because I guess the point is like a polygenic percentage doesn't sort independently like that.
Yes. So it's an oversimplification that tries to answer how big the snake will get. And hi, Lisa. I love her setups for the white lips. Have you seen those?
Lisa's the best.
Yes, she is. So how that number is achieved is it's X percentage back of the lineage back to a dwarf or a super dwarf or locality, whatever. So if you take a pure super dwarf to a mainland, it's 50% super dwarf. So theoretically, it gets 50% the size of that super dwarf in a mainland. For the first generation, it is pretty well split down the middle, we found, but with successive generations, it's a polygenic trait. You have no idea where those size genetics are going to lie. So for 37 and a half, what is it, a 50%er bred back to a pure, and then that 25%er taken back to a, oh, don't make me do math on here live, maybe taken back to a 50%er.
I'm not even doing it in my head.
I can't either.
I just believe you.
Yeah. I have a chart written down somewhere. But with a lot of the morphs, what you have to do is do that initial pure super dwarf to a mainland. And it's like a triple, even quadruple recessive trait because you're working backwards. One step forwards, two steps back. So that's how you get all of those 37.5% that are still going to get mainland size, but it's the start to something like a 75% albino, which we do see now. And that's actually reasonable for most people to own.
Do you think, let me like dig into that part. Reasonable for most people to own.
Good question.
I'm going to tell you a couple stories, or just one
Please.
story, maybe two. I've met multiple people who bought retics, sold to them as just like a corn snake, super dwarf retic, like, you know, they're not. No. They're a small retic, really.
Yes, they are a reticulated python.
Like, it's cool that they're smaller, but they're still a retic. But that was like the selling, the hard sales pitch on the phone. Let me put it that way. It's specific enough while being vague.
We'll make fun of that in private.
Okay, well, I'm making fun of it in person because I have corn snakes, and I think They're not the same thing. To me, they're like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a scrub or something. Like
Yeah.
a big, impressive, cool statement piece should be expensive so pet people can get it. Not it's like a corn snake, so there should be one in everybody's home. Do you agree with that statement, or am I full of shit?
100%. I do think everyone should own a retic that wants one and can house it responsibly. The coolest pet in the world. But once again, there's that asterisk of owning it responsibly and taking care of it responsibly.
Yeah, and there should be a price difference, like not a corn snake price. So a kid comes and gets it for $25. So like just calling it that just to get somebody to buy another one for $1,500. Mm-hmm. All right, Chris asks, how many people are really dedicated to keeping localities pure since imports are closed versus making morph crosses specifically?
There's like 3 people.
3 people, everybody.
Well, that's an over-exaggeration, but there's very few people, unfortunately.
Luckily, Lucas, I'm assuming.
Oh, no. All of his stuff's fake.
Dang it. Because that's what I would want.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's me personally, I already have morphe species and they have their own problems of like people are investing and then they're mad and they don't actually like the species, they like the project, and you're like, well, maybe if you wanted a pair of something, you would want the pure locality. So if you were ever to appeal to me, that's how you would appeal to me. I really don't want ocelot 50% dildo, whatever. I already have that in other species. It'd be nice to just like enjoy the species, mm-hmm. But there's not that many people doing it. Is it just because there weren't that many kept in that were kept pure to begin with?
Yeah. So I'll back up. In 2015, importation. Okay, thank you, Lucas. He has one of my snakes. He has 2 of my snakes actually. So, Lucas, I love you. I apologize. But importation was banned in 2015. And so we only had what we had. There was a month when they announced it. So people tried to get stuff in. They really were mostly unsuccessful. There was, I think, 1 shipment of pure super dwarfs from Dan Maliri. And we can talk about that later just because I know you're interested in a lot of what he does. But basically what we had was what we had. There are, off the top of my head, 9 dwarf localities that are pure. In the U.S., and then there are some other mainland localities that are kept pure, but especially when you move to the mainlands, there's hardly anyone working in it.
Like pure mainlands?
Yeah, pure mainland. So it'd be like a pure Bali.
That would be cool for like zoo
awesome.
purposes or whatever, like a facility. It's like, I want a pure, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Vin Russo had the pure hog at the Bronx Zoo. Is that what it was?
Did he? I don't know.
Boa person.
I only know the boa part of Vin's life, I guess.
Hog Island boa?
Oh, that's what you meant. I thought you meant there was like a retic. So Vin has many things, and he's the only one with them, which I guess begets another question. If there's only 2 founding animals, are we taking care of a dying lineage because of lack of genetic diversity?
That's a great question, one we actually have all the time. So there's 2 specific localities where that's essentially our reality. In the U.S., Tamalongan, and then Halmahera. Actually, Rodney just had a clutch today of Halmaheras, and I believe we only have 1.1 or 2.1, very limited genetic diversity. So if we want to keep that pure, we're going to have to inbreed. We're on F2 Tamalongans. No, F1s, and everything is going to be inbred from there.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I liked your episode when Chad couldn't come on.
Andrew's a team player.
Yes, he is. So kind of the reality that some of us have come up with is keep it within the subspecies, because it makes more sense to have an animal that at least resembles the subspecies than just taking it to all these random morphs and getting 50% ternates. Because they look cool, but at the end of the day, it's not a pure ternate.
Yeah, I think we're going to come to that point with boas. Like the only Tarahumara's were a pair, as far as I'm aware. So that means like eventually we'll need to outcross the Sigma, boa Sigma, which would be the same species. But There's
But yeah, what do
also
you
a lot
do?
of cancer in
Oh,
boas
jeez.
and carpets that are inbred. Let me just
Mhm.
put it that way. They get stomach cancer at like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I have a 3-year-old Longicauda with cancer now. And I'm like,
Jeez.
it's so cool that it's pure, but it's also dying. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And that's something interesting because I have the foot in herpeticulture and then a foot in the vet world. Um, so how do you grapple with that? Because on one hand, I would love a pure Halmahera, but by F2, that animal is going to be so genetically weakened because of the lack of diversity in captivity. That's not worth it and probably shouldn't be continued to be bred.
Yeah, it's not fair to the animal either. It's not, even though you're wanting to preserve something for the hobby, you're just making an animal that will suffer.
Exactly.
Um,
I mean, we see that with spiders, jaguar retics, jaguar carpets. Um, Name all of the animals with neurological issues that we continue to breed in captivity because we like how they look.
right. It's kind of wild. Um, Minimal diversity with Bali, minimal diversity with Karumpa, Madu, Malaysians. I hope people one day would be happy with like just a pure subspecies. Like that's the dream to me.
That would be great. We're
Yeah.
getting there. Um,
If,
the pure subspecies, so the dwarf and super dwarf, Jampionis, that's becoming more popular out of necessity and because people thought they had pure localities and they didn't.
mhm.
So they're great starter pets for someone who wants a retic, but they're not, pure localities.
Okay, what are the rules in retic world? Because in boa world, it's like if they're not documented, it doesn't count. Like you
Yeah.
don't get to guess. Basically, it becomes like generic mutt after that, which is fine. I don't know. Like mutts are fine too.
Yeah.
Is that how it is in retic world? Do you have enough like CITES links?
We don't have any.
Okay.
If you're lucky, Rodney has paperwork from Cameron, who imported the Ternates and Halmaheras. I have CITES paperwork for some retics, but it just says reticulated python. It doesn't even say the subspecies, let alone the locality. So what we're reduced down to is having basically the ability to track it back to the importer.
Friends don't let friends guess locality.
Yeah, Kagan knows.
What if
something
you
about that.
kind of knew but you weren't sure? You still think it's not a guessable?
So I would defer, or I guess resort to what the chondro people do and refer to it as like an undocumented. So for
like I've bought Longicauda. Some of them I know have lineage back to CITES paper, and some of them don't. But the ones that don't, they were just sold to me that way, and I'm just gonna believe them because not everybody has CITES paper for everything.
yeah,
So I guess that could be undocumented too. But is it gonna matter at some point? This is like a boa debate, also.
oh no, it's fascinating because it's the same issue we have in retics. It's the same issue we have in chondros. What is a pure locality for captivity purposes? And there's no right answer.
Right.
Or if something gets imported as the wrong thing, that's happened.
Or
so-
imported as the wrong thing on purpose. You know,
We didn't have that really with retics, but I know you guys have that with boas.
we love smuggling boas.
I
I
don't know
found
why.
this white snake not in Brazil.
Whatever happened with that? It was Jeremy Stone, right?
Yeah, I have some. I have some descendants right now.
So are they illegal?
Nope.
Are your animals illegal or okay?
Only the ones. So Brazil sees the original. Well, I guess the original animal died, but like the F1s, the like other ones had already been sold, so they were like, they couldn't go to downstream buyers and repatriate them to Brazil too. So now we have fires. Like the hobby's full of fires.
Yeah. Both literal and metaphorical.
Yeah. So I don't. It's tough that the hobby's based on being a bunch of criminals.
But that's nothing new.
I know.
Pick up a book and that's what it says.
I'm still like halfway through it. Stolen World or whatever.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this is kind of depressing actually, because none of
Oh,
those
I love it.
Okay, you do.
Yeah.
But some of them like had genuine interest, and some of them were more interested in like the thrill of the hunt or
that was
acquiring.
Neat.
So I'm not that. I'm more of, instead of like an int, I'm more of an int wife. I want to nurture. I don't want to go out into the wild forest or whatever and look for rare trees. Is that
Yes.
a tortured metaphor? Because I feel.
Have you ever listened to John Mayer try to torture a metaphor to death?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah, you should look up.
Okay, I will.
Because you can follow it along at the start, and then he slowly derails, and then tries to recover, and then sometimes he just gets lost. It's like that Michael Scott quote where sometimes I'll start a sentence and then have no idea where it goes, but I hope I find it along the way. I have also felt like that for the last 30 minutes.
Well, that's the problem with the live podcast. You can't actually edit what the hell you say on the internet, turns out. So you have to try to be good. All right, next question. Do you think, besides like the, obviously adult size is plastic and snakes, based on environmental factors, but also do you think there are like secondary or tertiary like epigenetic changes that happen once you feed something enough, whereby F3 they're going to act much more like mainlands because all of the methyl tags have fallen off and they're like, fuck it, we're going to be big snakes now.
Oh, I love when you ask questions I actually know how to answer.
Okay, good.
There's this famous example. You've heard of Jampayas, right? Okay, so Jampayas were the first dwarf locality imported, and Jim and Jason Gaspar took they took 3 of the F1 Jampayas on the island of Jampayas. They did a study and they didn't find a single snake over 7 feet, and then that F1, they got one of those snakes all the way up to 18 feet.
Wow.
It never bred. Thank you, Lucas. Never bred, but it speaks to the phenotypic plasticity that we see in the species. So if you were to breed that snake, would it express the genes essentially for 18 feet, or would it express the genes for 7 feet? And you don't know. And that runs into an issue we currently see, which is the whole bloodlines thing in captivity. If you want a very controversial opinion, you can watch Rodney's videos on that. He's not necessarily wrong, but he doesn't necessarily have the best tact when it comes to that. Sometimes
that's how you need it delivered, though.
I love Rodney because he says everything that no one else will publicly.
Rodney doesn't know who I am, but just as credit to Rodney. I watch all the stuff and I'm like, Rodney. Because I don't know, sometimes you need the contrarian opinion. Let me just put it that way.
And it's not even contrarian because he's right and he says everything that people won't say. So,
do they not say it because they're scared or they're financially invested in
both
the mythos?
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah. So if you bought into this idea that, this animal comes from a small bloodline, and then if you were to give it to Rodney, he could get it up to 15 feet if he fed it like fed it a pig every other day.
Right. I can make a boa 12 foot the same way. Like, what is the rule currently for like the correct conservative but not so slow as to be starving retic feeding paradigm currently? I don't even know. Like, I know what it is in boas, but
that's another hard question because you could feed it every day. Obviously that's horrible and you get animals that look like jays, but when they're young, starting them off about once a week and a prey size that's about the same thickness as they are, once they get up to 2 years old, probably once every 2 weeks a prey size that's 1.5 their widest girth, and then when they're adults, once a month, 1.5 times their girth, 2.5 or 2.
Okay,
which is a weird thing to say. Like, okay, I'm gonna feed this thing and it's twice the size of the snake, but they take it.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Chris G.
So you think that, funnel makes a snake that we could compare equally in terms of its polygenic genetics for size basis, but then some people are starving them to pretend they're small.
Yeah.
And some people are overfeeding them just because they want to, because they don't know any better, and they kill them that way. But how many? I don't know. I mean, this is really complicated, right? But,
yeah. Especially when you're trying to do it properly.
Male boas small because I just wouldn't have to store as many boas as big, but it's fine. But that's not like, to me, they're real terminal size. their real terminal size is much more similar to the female size.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Do you think retic keepers do the same thing to their males?
Oh, they keep them as small as possible.
Mm-hmm. Which is fine. I don't know. It's probably more ethical, frankly, because they have more cage space, technically.
If it's either between an 8-foot for a female and a 4-foot cage for a male.
Okay, not as ethical.
Yeah,
more ethical.
I'm
sorry.
not the morality police either.
I'm not either. I just like. I have the same problems you guys do, but mine are way smaller. Like just every part of it is smaller. And I'm like, what are you guys doing over there?
And it's very hard for someone getting in because it's confusing. And if you're trying to do it right, you have to ask all of these different people and wade through what's real and what's a sales pitch. Mm-hmm. And it's a real shame. So I just shake my head. Yeah, that's what it's going to boil down to. Just shake your head.
Okay, new question. The lack of spotters in the retic community is confusing to me. Do you get recommended spotters for snakes that are 10 feet and over?
Oh, so you should. There's this horrible story. This happened in 2019, but a woman was helping out at someone's facility. She was in there by herself, and there was an F1 animal that she was told not to handle. She handled it anyway, put it around her neck, it constricted, and it killed her. And that was an 8-foot snake.
Yeah, it's not even the snake's fault necessarily. It's just like, if you get enough blood flow cut off to your brain, you will pass out before you even know what's happening. Yeah.
I just wrote that. The editor wanted me to include something about that. And
well, you spoiled your book. Now you have to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's what I was working on right before you came here. Someone messaged me, and it was turning into a long thing, but it was good. So I'm very close to finishing my book. It's called The Complete Reticulated Python. It's going to be published by Living Art Publishing, which is Russ Gurley. Russ has edited almost every of the complete series from Eco. Eco's not doing much of the herpeticulture books anymore. So Russ has taken it upon himself to fill that void. He recently did the natural history of xenodonts, which was Dr.
Loafman's book?
Yeah. Have you read it?
No, I need to get it. I did a literature review for that video, right? But I was like, I can't the stupid Hognose Facts video, but I didn't want to cheat with his book. Does that sound weird?
Cheating.
Yes, it is. I got to do my own literature review.
That's such an academic take.
What if I missed something? He probably found more than me because he had more time. Because I had one weekend of just balls to the wall on Sci-Hub, stealing people's research.
I love Sci-Hub.
Yeah, don't tell anybody that we're thieves.
Is it really thievery though?
No, not if they took public money to finance their research. Just saying. Public. JSTOR. Fuck you, JSTOR. Sorry. You have
strong feelings about this.
Yeah, the Journal of Herpetology's on JSTOR. There's not enough context for the people at home. So the most important journal in our field is hidden behind the worst paywall ever, and it's hard to find loose copies unless the author just put them on their website or something. So you have to be a bitch about it, right? There's no +1 for Mediterranean skinks, and you're like, fuck. So even if you wanted to pay for it, it sucks. Sorry.
My favorite journal is Raymond Hoser's, which is do you remember what it's called? It's Australopopua Journal of.
Oh, that's real meta.
I don't know. And then it's specific. He's the only person who publishes it.
See, look, fuck JSTOR. Leave my JSTOR alone. There's the JSTOR simps are out. I'm sorry. This is the worst joke ever. All right. So you're going to bring him to Tinley, right? Hypothetically?
Yes. So we're hoping that it'll be done and printed everything by Tinley. So if it is, come see me at the Forgotten Tribes and Skulls table. That'll be Russ's table. I'll be selling and signing it. If it's not, or if you just want to buy it online because you're lazy and don't like to go to smelly shows like I am, just shoot me a message, Instagram or Facebook. I'll write your name down, and then once we have all the details worked out, I'll contact you again.
Do you know how much it'll be yet?
No. So I would, for a rough estimate, I would base it off of Dr. Loafman's book, which I think was $35 for paperback, $50 for hardcover, $100 for the collector's edition. So probably
collector's edition.
Mm-hmm.
There was a does it have DLC? Just kidding. That was the worst joke. Sorry.
Sorry.
No. Yeah, I get the stupid. I got Messenger's book. Is it here? I don't know where it is, but I usually get the paperback because I'm gonna like riffle through it and dribble on it anyway, and buy a nicer one later.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a lot. It's easier to highlight a $35 book than the $100 book. Right. That's why I haven't gotten the complete carpet. I don't really want to spend $100 on a book.
Did they release a paper one too? No. Dang it. Yeah. Yeah, it's the modern age, man. They don't have to be magazine quality, but I don't know. I usually like riffle through it while I'm in like the snake room and stuff too. It's even like skanky. There's mealworms in it. Who knows what's going on in there?
I mean, so like for me, I have the BOA book, but I don't refer to that every day. I wouldn't need the hardcover copy, but that's all there is. So, and I bought it secondhand because it was cheaper. But if there was a hardback,
the first edition or the second one?
The more complete, so the second.
Okay.
Which one's better?
The problem is like, I don't know.
Doubt it.
They're fine. My issue is like, boa taxonomy is still in the air.
Oh, so is retic.
Okay, so it's like it's fine, but you have to like be like, this is a work in progress, which I guess all science is a work in progress. But there's no like, we're 100% sure Longicauda will key out with Impertor. Maybe it probably deserves its own species, subspecies.
Have you dug into green tree python taxonomy?
I think it's funny what I've read.
That is a minefield of minefields.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
All right. I gotta look at my list. I lost it.
Well, I'll ask you a question. So
okay.
I love Suriname and Guyana boas, but I don't want a snake that gets that big.
Most of them don't get that big.
Like how big is big?
6 feet.
Okay.
It's normally like the Pocapas
from
Peru that are substantially big.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feed them and break them, they're not that big. Some of them will come in gravid at 4 feet. Where is he? Chris Gonzalez. He bought a gravid female. She wasn't even big. He thought it was a male. And she's probably 8 years old or something in the wild. If you don't break them, they're very petite,
So beyond those, is there a insular species or insular locality that has a similar look that won't get as big?
No, I mean everything else is way uglier.
It was like Paragonera Peninsula, Barranquilla, but is there anything else?
Like Tara Hermara, which is Sigma.
Oh, I don't like those.
Okay, don't like that look. They're small. Crawl Key and Cocker Key, but they're very Imperator looking and gray, not like purple and beautiful. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted a small, like the artists formerly known as Amarelli, they can be small too, but they're like, especially the Bolivian ones, but they're heavier bodied. But if you want a Guyana or a Suriname, something from the Shield, I would just get one because they're not really that big if you don't destroy them with food. Yeah. And they look pretty good, right?
Oh, they look incredible.
Right, so, just get what you want.
And then follow-up question, as someone living, as the artist currently or formerly living in California, now living in Florida, is it worthwhile to get a boa? Or do you think that the possibly changing legal landscape is worth a while?
Right. No, not there. Especially since when they put it on their like fuck you list, like they're already going to be added to the fuck you list early because there's boas in Deering's estate and they're well established.
Yeah.
So like Sorry.
Thanks.
I don't know.
Had to get rid of my retics, can't get boas. Have my
I
green
would-
trees, but that's it.
It would be really cool if states or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service would have some nuance and would be like, this subspecies or species is not 10 feet for retics or whatever. Like, had some nuance, but I doubt they'll do that. They'll just be like, the entire genus, fuck you. The Starhomars are like 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah. Those things
They're like
are
a
so
little rosy boa, basically. No, fuck you, whole genus. They've never acted like they were going to use nuance in any way, you know?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the legality of owning reticulated pythons? How would you like to see government agencies go about it?
Okay. It would be nice if they would let the smaller subspecies be legally kept, but it's possible they won't, right? For nuance purposes. But we're not doing a good job of like showing the most ethical version of retic keeping to outsiders right now.
Yeah.
And I've been shows and we sell them at shows for $200 to whoever. Where does that go? What trailer park does that snake go to?
Yeah.
We had a retic loose in Oklahoma a couple weeks ago.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like a 14-footer, I think.
Yeah. Probably bought the show for $200 or during the Sunday sale at the end of the day. So like I don't know how long retic keeping is going to exist, frankly. Not because they're bad snakes or all retic breeders are bad. It's just because some people will ruin it for you guys.
Yeah, and they have.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what to say about it. Like, it feels bad. Like, I would like there to be mainland breeders still. They're like, okay, I'm going to breed pure mainlands for zoos or facilities or whatever, and I'm only going to breed them once every 4 years. And I'm going to cull half the eggs, and I'm going to have known placement, and we're going to go for maximum genetic diversity. I would like that to still exist, like for future posterity of the hobby. Do you think it'll still exist?
I hope so, but it's bleak. And can you blame legislators for enacting blanket bans?
Right, because they're going to be like, damn, that trailer trash had a 14-footer running around his Ford F-150. That's going to eat the dog.
So it's great to be on our high horse and say, oh, we can do it right, but no one sees that. They see the 14-foot retic that gets out. They see the Samson Pruitt facility, and we can't compete with that.
Right.
So I welcome...
Sorry. I feel depressed now for you. I'm depressed for myself, right? Because boas have the same problem. It's just the scale is different, but... I think one day U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will get the power back to ban at least interstate transport of injurious species.
That ruling is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
You've looked at it. I know you've looked into it, but it's a weird ruling.
They just need to get it added in as a addendum to any other bill that they have the power again. Because we didn't remove them from the injurious species list. They're still there.
It was a jurisdiction argument.
Yeah. So, like, all they need to do is be granted the power from Congress. One way or another, they'll keep trying. And unfortunately, that means, or fortunately, I don't know. Do you think this will be good or bad? All of your commerce will be within state. So is that good or is that bad?
Taking limited genetic diversity and making it even more limited.
Right. But then they won't be investments anymore. Like, this is something that's been a concern for me for a while. We're like, it's an investment. You should spend $20,000 and get in while it's hot. And I know there's lots of, and I keep them species that have investment parts, but they're usually like very pet snakeable. So like once the prices fall down, you're like, whatever, give it to the neighbor. It's a 3-foot ball python. Nobody cares. It's fine. But when it's a snake like that, I'm like, who holds the bag at the end? When it's $20,000 to begin with, and you're doing a morph curve that could be shut off at any time by regulation.
You're right. It's there's no
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
it's bleak, and that's why I was trying to emphasize the more optimistic
Yeah,
viewpoints early on.
Right,
But,
optimistic.
but that's the reality. I mean, I'm sitting here. I wrote an entire book about the species, and I can't keep it.
I know, that is sad.
Yeah, well, there's already a pretty substantial black market for retics, but that's here nor there.
I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, except like if you liked what you kept and you were in a municipality where you could keep it and all of a sudden it was banned, well, it doesn't really matter that much. You can like grandfather them, and you, since you like them, they were your pets mostly to begin with, and it wasn't an investment. So that's like a more safe route. Is that safe? I know some states they didn't even grandfather them. They're just like, I'll murder you.
So I would have welcomed, I would welcome legislation here that said, okay, you need an enclosure 1.5 times the length of the snake. It has to be chipped. You have to open your doors to FWC regulators twice a year. You have to have a lock on it. I would have loved that, but no one was advocating for that. And because of that, we have this black or white scenario. And that's what I am afraid of.
Do you think increased welfare standards would have made them not go as hard in the paint?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know. I think they will do anything to get some sort of like brownie points on like their voter ledger that they accomplished something, and it almost doesn't matter what they accomplish. You know what I mean? They do a lot of like reworking of work to look like they're working. FWC in particular. You know what I mean?
Conversation. But I would say that what happens, it's not necessarily as deep as you may think, because you get that news in Oklahoma. Some legislator sees it and says, okay, let's just ban retics. That's very easy. And yeah, they do get the brownie points, but there's no incentive to look further into it or find that gray area because no one's advocating for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy for one person to like make the dumbest law of all time.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, can they be blamed for it?
No, I mean, that's maybe all the research they did. That's why people trying to. There was an Oklahoma. This is totally off topic, but he tried to ban kids peeing in litter boxes and pretending to be furries in school.
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah, mm-hmm.
Which isn't even real. It's like a fake AstroTurf story that's not even real. But he still tried to ban it and send them to pounds. And I'm like, bro, just Google like one time to see if there's actual furry kids wanting to pee in litter boxes at school.
Well, that's obviously, and it was designed to make headlines.
Right.
However, I think if you have 10 people, 10 concerned citizens that say we shouldn't have 14-foot snakes roaming around in our backyards, then
yeah, and maybe they're right. They shouldn't have 14-foot snakes in their backyard, right?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Just like every time a cobra gets out and runs amok in some subdivision, the people are right to be mad about it. Mm-hmm. And even though it was an honest mistake or whatever, you know, it can get their kid right in the eye.
So my argument is that reptile owners should be the ones advocating for increased standards.
Before the standards come.
Before the standards. It's way easier to do it on your own terms.
Do you think retic people in not... Obviously, Florida doesn't matter anymore. Should do like the 2-door facility with a lock and then a lock on every cage? That would be a big burden right now because a lot of people would do that out of the spare bedroom, garage, whatever. Do you think we should move towards that?
I would love to see it. I don't think that it would become a reality, and I don't think that there would be anyone who would champion it. But okay. Completely correct. I mean, the amount of stories I've heard about big snakes getting out. Even my ball python inadvertently got out because I had a universal rocks background and I took it off when I moved out here. But I had these little vents, and I just stuck them back in the hole. But my ball python was able to get one out and escaped through that hole. And it was completely locked cage and everything. But
right. And if a normal person saw a ball python, they'd probably spaz out too because they're dumb, right? Mm-hmm. They're naive to what's going on. But it's, I don't know, they're usually less dumb I don't know. It's just like almost like an unmanageable situation. Like I don't know how to fix it. I feel bad for everybody involved.
Well, you do know how to fix it. You just talked about how you could fix it.
I know, but I don't think you can make trailer trash have a double door 10-foot enclosure for an 8-foot super dwarf, not buy the prettiest thing, not overbuy, not overfeed, not have nido and mites, and then spread it every time they go to the show.
Yeah. There
Every
was that
time.
study, 76% of snakes had mites at the Texas show.
That is so classy. Oh, God. I just don't know what to do.
At least there are people like you in your podcast who are preaching the quote-unquote correct ways to do it.
I don't even know if I'm correct. Like, I could be more welfare-based keeping. Like, I could put more enrichment in it, and I think about it all the time. And I'm trying to, like, leverage how to do more. And I think any keeper who's at least thinking about how to do better is on the right track, right? Like, if budget is a problem, space, if you're at least, like, your heart's in the right spot and you're working towards it, it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people don't even give a shit. Glass tank, retic bites them because the retic is
that
video.
So hard to watch.
Right, my mom sent it to me. She's like, "Look at your dumb snakes," and I'm like, "Stop sending me trash." So that's how popular that video became. That my mom, who doesn't care about snakes.
Oh, in class, someone was asking, "Oh, you know that guy on YouTube with the huge snakes?" Like, yeah, I have his phone number, but that's all they know, and they only see people like that acting crazy.
Right, we look insane. Not like. Yeah. Ideally, I would like to be like compared to like a careful dog or horse breeder. Like if we had a registry and I don't know, pit tags and everybody that was big enough to have it, even if it wasn't legally required, we would look more thoughtful or professional,
So there needs to be a movement within the market to make that happen, because nothing will happen until someone stops spending money until they do that.
Do you think the recession caused fall in all sales will make people compete in this way? Like become the most ethicalist, become sort of a pure locality retic registry where you can have like an ID number at least, even if there's no pit tags, but like report clutches and lineage.
I don't know if it'll completely resort to that, but there will be new ways to find competition. So you've seen the green tree python lineage charts that date back 50 years, and every single snake on there is ID number and tracked. And you can say, oh, this snake was smuggled in from Papua New Guinea in 1973 by Carl Switak.
I mean, that's cool. But,
yeah,
I bred goats and dogs. We got registries. You can DNA test lineage. There's no lying, no joshing. And they make you put bucks DNA in like a repository. So if you lie about who sired something, you can go back and check and they can fix it, and they're real sassy about it.
Good.
So like we should be doing that, right?
So whose responsibility is it?
Someone would have to make an association, a nonprofit 501c3 who just loves retics or loves locality boas or loves whatever, and they just want to propagate the species to the best of our collective ability. And to do that, we would maintain a registry. I don't think Morph Market should do it. I don't think Clutch should do it. I don't think anybody who has like a financial incentive in sales. It should be like a breed club, but in this case, it's for a species that just is interested in like having a registry.
Okay, since you brought up Morph Market, how do you feel about those auctions? And are they legal?
Are they legal? Okay. So it depends on what state you're in, right? Because technically in most states, but not all states, do you have to have an auctioneer's license to be legal. So I don't know. I guess it would depend on situs. Where's Morph Market located? Hopefully the Bahamas. Their servers are in the Bahamas. I'm kidding. What do you think?
Number one, it's par for the history of, animal keeping to be a little sketchy, but I think it's a good idea, but I'm just not sure if you can, if they're with, I think you need an auctioneer or the auctioneer's license.
It depends on the state. Like in this state, they love auctions. They get a boner for auctions. So like,
Okay.
technically I should have an auctioneer's license too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're going to enforce it even on Wharf Market.
Yeah.
And if they do, you're just like, okay, sorry. I don't. The fines are like not very much.
Well, in Oklahoma.
Well, everything in Oklahoma is not very much.
I like Oklahoma. What part are you in?
Western gross part.
Oh. Oklahoma City is nice parts.
Yeah, but that's where all the tornadoes go. They love it there.
What was the big one? 2011.
Reno,
thank you. Yeah, I went on a little spiral about 2 weeks ago.
Oh my god, did you go on like a tornado YouTube?
Yeah.
I love tornado
Re-timmer.
YouTube. Yes. You know the spot where the ballistics crew died?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what was their names? I forget. It was the 3 dudes.
Yeah, I want to go there to their little like shrine. It's up by I was like, husband, can we go to the ballistic shrine? And he's like, no, you're so dumb. And I'm like, it's only 2 hours from my house. It's gonna be awesome. There's a bunch of people who left like little fake Dorothy, the little sensors. I'm like, let's go. It's going to be so fun. He's like, you're the worst wife I've ever married.
Oh my gosh.
It's probably really
As in there was
boring.
multiple?
No, but he's regretting his choices now because I want to go to the ballistic shrine. No.
Twistex.
Sorry, Twistex. Yeah, that's right. Ballistics is chapstick. I'm so sorry. Rest in peace.
Yeah, because it was the father, the son, and then the other guy.
I know, it was really sad and fucked up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I never knew I would bond over that on a reptile podcast.
No, so now that I'm here, I like to watch the like tornado. It's so weird. The tornado YouTube lives where they're like, we're going into the funnel, and I'm like, let's go. It's some sort of weird masochism because like. And I'll show it to my child, and he's young and so very impressionable. He's like, "Are we gonna die tonight?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's not even anywhere near here. It's in Alabama or something."
I like that you are the one who is showing it to him, not the other. No, it's
I deal with stress by just drowning in it. Like anytime we have a financial crisis, I watch The Big Short like 3 times just to like make sure I'm fully remembering how cool it is to suffer. I don't know.
Overrated.
Is it?
Yes.
You didn't like it?
It's Adam McKay insisting upon himself.
Okay, yeah. But isn't that fun sometimes?
If it wasn't Adam
there's
McKay.
There's like a mental masturbation part. Like, oh yeah, I'm so cool and smart.
I think The Bear did it way better.
I'll have to watch that one.
Oh, it's good.
Is it on Netflix?
Hulu.
Okay. I don't use Hulu. I'm sorry. I'll just legally download it.
On Sci-Hub.
From the Sci-Hub for media. Yeah, I can't buy all these stupid streaming services. I already have 2. That's plenty. The other ones I totally legally download. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, let's go back.
Yes.
Do you think retics people test their snakes for Nido or sunshine virus or anything retics have problems with?
So, no, first and foremost, they don't. And that grinds my gears a lot.
Okay. Why don't they want to do that? Usually they're small and expensive, like in the beginning. And so like, it would be more manageable. You buy it and you can just test it real quick.
I will quote a popular podcast that said, retics eat Nido for breakfast. I don't agree with that at all, but that is a sentiment in the retic community.
Wow. What about all that seasonal resp retics get all the time?
I wonder what that is. Or having a snake that's in too small of an enclosure with a giant turd for 24 hours, breathing in ammonia. So
So most of the retic community is not interested in sort of disease management.
No, and I want Lucas to get you on. I've told him like 5 times now.
Come on, Lucas.
For
I don't know.
popularizing biosecurity, because it's just not done for retics, unfortunately. I don't know why people aren't more scared of crypto, because I know that there's collections with crypto in them that aren't handled.
What about mycoplasma? Which, in my current theory, you know the Burm disease from like the late 90s? It was actually mycoplasma, and maybe like Nido mixed in. But the way mycoplasma acts, it reminds me of that. What do you think about that? Have you heard of anybody getting diagnosis for mycoplasma?
I've never heard of that, but there's a lot of DIYing veterinary stuff when it comes to retics, so I would be shocked that something like mycoplasma ever crossed someone's mind to check for.
Okay.
Who's to say if it's Nido-like virus or mycoplasma that's causing all the respiratory issues that we see. But it's very simple. Test your stuff. Have basic biosecurity measures, especially if you're looking at it as an investment.
Yeah, it's always weird. Like a class of animals will be afflicted by something, and someone will have a very closely related species, and they'll be like, my species never gets that. And you're like,
yeah, Nido or serpentoviruses are weird.
They are weird, but like, you know, I've been told only chondros get it. I'm like, no, and it's like, no, you only heard stories from chondro keepers with it.
Yeah, because they're the ones who test.
Right.
I love the chondro community, by the way, if I haven't made that
They're
clear
very
by now.
progressive,
Yes,
in many
for
ways.
husbandry.
Well, they think it'll die if the stick is not perfectly flat and sanitary.
Have you seen the heretic from Focus Cubed?
No.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
yes, but I don't remember which one it is.
So it's, I think, a 4x3x2, and it's fully automated. So they have ventilation, fans, heating, lighting. It's insane. They also sponsored the book, so shout out to Focus Cube. Do you have any of their enclosures?
I do not. They look cool though. I would like one like in the living room. It's like a, I don't know, a statement piece.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
No, it is not.
Okay. Like with lots of like blue and like matches my logo. That's what I would like one day. All right, let's look it up. Talk more about that while I look it up.
Yeah, so Focus Cubed habitats, they are really at the forefront of caging innovation, which I am all for, especially on the breeder side, now that they're incorporating things like UVB into a breeder setup, which is unheard of, but for things like geckos, very much needed. And they are working very hard and have been working on this for a year and a half, the Heretic, which is their fully automated model, and I think they're...
What section is it under? Sorry, 6 foot
It's not for sale.
Oh, it's on their Instagram?
Probably.
Just try to do a
it's on
visual aid.
Instagram. Let me see how good I am at but it's fully automated. It's all of the things you could ever want. Humidity.
Does it have a Miss King?
Yeah.
In it?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, sweet.
So that was their wall of heretics.
Is it supposed to be for arboreals only right now? What's the dimensions again?
I think it's 4x3x2. That's how they originally... So they are working on the arboreal model, but they're going to transition it to a semi-arboreal too. So
is it this one?
Yes.
They look very snazzy.
Yeah.
Okay, how much does it cost?
They're not for sale, but it's going to be quite expensive, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it's
I'm not surprised. They look nice. I just, you know.
If you have one snake and you put that in your living room, totally worth it.
Right. I'm like shopping around for a Climacphora upgrade because it gets too hot in the snake building for them. Like I could try to blast the AC down, but then my summer electric bill would be $1,000 instead of just $700. So I was like, maybe I'll just bring maybe I'll just bring the cool stuff inside, you know. Speaking of UVB, do you think retics benefit from some UVB in some way? Because some animals have serum level increases, like corn snakes, and some of them don't. Like ball pythons don't. So like you can argue whether or not they probably get some sort of enrichment, but there's no serum increases. Do you know if there's been a study on serum levels?
Unfortunately, there hasn't been. I hope someone does it, but the way I think about UVB was totally changed, and this might just be stupid, and it's also probably commonplace now, but it wasn't until someone said, you're not putting in a light bulb so you have UVB wavelengths in your snake's enclosure. You're doing it to replicate the sun. And then that was like a light bulb went off in my head, because if you think about, sub-Saharan Africa for ball pythons, they're out there. Well, you can watch that documentary on them. But essentially they would come out in the sun, thermoregulate, and then go back into their holes. They're doing that from the sun. So why not replicate that in captivity? And so I'm a very big proponent of UVB. And
all right, I'm going to get spicy. Ready?
Please do.
Okay. UVB causes cancer.
Everything causes cancer.
But definitely UVB.
Absolutely.
So we've seen a lot of, thermal burns and radiation burns. Could we reduce suffering by giving them D3 and doing some UVB, but not like blasting them all the time?
Mm-hmm. So that was the
to mitigate cancer risk. That's what I'm getting at mostly. Go.
Okay, twofold answer. The first thing is that's why the Ferguson zones were invented, the safe levels. And if you dig into it, those levels are so low compared to what they would be in the wild. There is very little risk. I won't say no risk, but a UVI of 1 is nothing compared to a midday sun. And then second off, I think it's very interesting, the idea to supplement D3 or other micronutrients. Have you seen the one from Missouri, the carnivore supplement? I think it's new.
The like powder?
What are your thoughts on it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like right now, okay, so like technically a human being could eat monkey chow, right? From Missouri.
Yeah.
Right? And live probably perfectly fine.
Compared to every other genetically modified thing we eat.
Right. But then like, is monkey chow perfect? Maybe.
Probably. I mean, think about dog food. That is perfect.
Is it?
Yes.
Remember when we didn't have taurine in cat food, and we're like, "Whoopsie, they're all going blind," and then we added it or whatever, right?
Yeah,
we're like, sweet.
No, but
like that's the question is like, what do we? You don't know what you don't know. So I don't know how much UVB would be the right amount to be like the perfect midpoint for not causing cancer, but causing enough beneficial benefits that the animal is perfect. Because in humans, blasting ourselves with UVB is also not good. But 400 IUs was not the right recommendation for the last whatever decades. It's more like 4,000 IUs. But in a perfect world, you would take the 4,000 IUs orally and not get any cancer risk, because every amount of UVB is some cancer risk. But also you're not as depressed if you walk outside. So yes. I'm a little like, I don't know.
That's why I speak so much in the book about Ferguson zones, because someone already did that.
Okay.
They did the hard work.
Well, what if instead of doing a Ferguson zone work, you turned it on? Or, I mean, you still should be within a safe distance, but do we need to turn it on all the time?
Absolutely. No,
what if it's like once, like it's a cloudy day replicated and then a sunny day replicated? Do we think we're adding extra cancer, extra cataracts to snakes and lizards maybe too, that don't necessarily need that much exposure?
That was brought up on an interview Dr. Loafman did, where he would replicate cloudy days for, I'm assuming false water cobras, but he would turn off the heat and the light for a week. And then as soon as he turned it back on, he said that they experienced this, massive increase in activity and all these other natural behaviors, because where they come from, it's like that. So I think that would be a very good practice. So, for example, my UVB only runs for 4 hours a day right now.
Like during like peak day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is like people will straight scream at you for not having UVB on snakes.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I take them outside and we do like a 15-minute sunshine session, handling session at peak day. Maybe that's enough for him. And they're like, no, fuck you. You're a bitch. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but they seem okay. I do dust with vitamin D3 and calcium 4. Like neonates that probably do need more.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's not enough, and I am incorrect. I'm willing to be incorrect on that one. But
I would agree with you. And we see a lot of this pseudo-intellectualism, obviously. And I love that word.
I mean, me too. I'm also guilty of pseudo-intellectualism. So
yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. I don't know what I'm saying, so I'm glad I've been able to ramble on for an hour and 15 minutes. It's also really hot in this room, and I'm wearing
It's hot in here too.
It's like 85 degrees today.
Oh, that'd be awesome, actually.
No, because it's 85% humidity too.
Okay.
So that's why my face is beet red.
You can take off your jacket.
No,
if
I
you
can't.
want. You can't?
No. It's
okay,
like
sorry.
A privacy veil.
Oh. Okay. You only take off your jacket when you've entered your final form of right.
That's late at night.
Mm-hmm.
Full moon. No, but
what were we talking about? I forget.
Supplementation.
UVB. Okay,
yeah.
and supplementation.
No, there's a lot of pseudo-intellectualism because it's very easy to know a little bit. I mean, classic Dunning-Kruger. Very easy to know a little bit about this stuff. And you can get pigeonholed in these ideas, and I'm very guilty of it too. But once you actually learn the nuances, it's different. So you'll see these people who only recommend Arcadia products, and then when you actually talk to the experts, it's far more nuanced than that, because the Arcadia marketing is very good, but also it could be construed as misleading sometimes.
Yeah, this is an extremely dangerous topic to talk about because there are UVB police that will downvote this right away.
I think that they should read the book because I spent a very long time researching this.
Okay, please read the book.
Yes, I think I've got a fairly good answer for all of this stuff in there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would need to be more sold that what I'm doing now from a husbandry standpoint is insufficient. But I could be because I'm not really married to any sort of concept at this point for stuff that they're otherwise fine. I'm more interested in spending money right this second on bigger enclosures.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like absolutely. I'd rather increase enrichment through bigger enclosures, more outdoor enclosures for like temporary playtime outside. Sounds weird to say out loud. So they could get natural UVB, then spending a bunch of money retrofitting UVB into like PVC enclosures because that would be a more welfare use for me. What do you think about that?
So what I would say is bigger enclosures with hiding spaces and then having some sort of day and night cycle. If you do that, then you are, if you're looking at like Maslow's hierarchical pyramid, I forget what exactly it's called, but you're doing far more than the traditional breeder setup of a blacked out enclosure with no hides, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I ask you a question about
Absolutely.
the black? Everyone calls them blackout, but they're not fully black.
They're essentially.
I mean, there's lots of holes in them. Like there's perforations in the ARS rack. So it's dim, but it's not black.
How does it
so if you turn off the lights in the ambient room, it's pitch black in there. And if you turn them on, they can tell something has changed. They like will wake up or whatever and notice that you're there.
I think it's something, but I would argue that it's not enough.
Okay.
And I could be wrong on that.
I don't know either. People are just like, it's a blackout tub. They never see anything or have any stimulation from the outside. I'm saying they do see stuff, and you'll see them like interact with you through the crack because they watch you, right? And they're like, hey, what are you doing? You know, they see you enough to know that you're there. They can feel you walking.
Yeah.
So is it that? I'm going to get canceled for this. Like, ideally, perfectly clear tubs with perfectly black hides inside so they can see as much stimulation as they want and then leave. But right now, this is what we got, so we haven't bought new ones yet. But I'm saying it's not like a completely neutral chamber where they don't get any stimuli at all. They do interact with you through even a solid tub.
How does the ARS one compare to the Freedom Breeder?
They also have perforations.
They do.
And
Okay.
and like it's almost like a 1/4-inch gap. So like a corn snake could get out, but the ball pythons will come and sniff you and then look. They'll watch you and they're like, "You feeding me yet?" And you're like, "Not today, buddy." But you can open them up and let them periscope and hang out and crawl around. So there's it's not completely neutral. And I think when it's called blackout, it sounds like torture. And I'm like, I don't know if it is torture. It's probably not good, but it's not.
It's not good. I mean, we have preliminary data that indicates that it's not good.
In a peer-reviewed paper?
No, it's preliminary data.
We'll see.
I don't cite it in the book.
Okay, good.
I'll say that. But some of this should be intrinsic, and I'll reuse a word that I said earlier, but tact. Especially on the advancing herpetological spaces, that there is very little tact and it's black or white. And I am as far left on that spectrum as you can be, but I'm not going to come on every podcast or go on every Facebook group and say, you're abusing your animals, because no one will listen.
Yeah, nobody's going to also talk to you back, by the way.
So
but
it's pointless.
I get animal abuse comments for clear tubs with enrichment. I get animal abuse comments for really big tubs clear with enrichment for really small snakes. So it's like it was an enclosure. Mm-hmm. It's become like extremely reactive to just a rack, no matter what the rack looks like, or mine don't have Nido. There's lots of people with bioactive enclosures that have Nido in it. It's like, who's more ethical right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tact. Baby steps. I mean, I know her name's Kayla, right, from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
She's gotten hate on her massive rack system.
Right.
People should be applauding that, not trying to tear her down for it.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of, I don't know. That's why, like, for Kayla, I know people are going to, maybe this is like an hour 22, people won't hear it, but often going into those situations just sets you up to get demoralized. But I mean the ethical keeping side, right? The advanced herp husbandry. If you're not perfectly meeting the ethical standards at this moment, you're just going to be shit on so hard, you're going to leave the hobby, basically. Mm-hmm. So,
and the key word is advancing. It's not, you have to be perfect tomorrow, and unfortunately it gets framed like that quite frequently. But what is one person's, what one person's ideal setup might be is an abuse to another. So it's all around bad, unfortunately. So I think applauding people who do it right, like Kayla and like yourself, who are using clear tubs, adding enrichment, larger enclosures, that's perfect.
I wish they thought so.
It's not black and white. That's
right. I don't think you would be surprised, but just to let you know, like most breeders are literally scared to show like their baby tubs. Mm-hmm. Like they'll show their adult enclosures because they're like set up for an adult permanent situation, and they're like, I'm so scared to even show you that I have racks because I will get railroaded with a bunch of comments about. But I have 40 babies, so like they have to go in something a little bit more efficient. And I take them out for UVB time once a week, and that's still not enough for people. Yeah. Everyone is torturing everything. Everything's being about like one-upping ethicalness, and I think it's not very good.
No.
So I don't know what to do about any of that.
But it's very easy to get trapped into that mindset, and I am guilty of it.
Okay, don't be trapped, brother. We all like snakes, right? Yeah. We're just. My favorite part, though, to this day, is that like the ethical keeping community just doesn't care about diseases. Oh,
that was weird. Okay.
That's so weird.
Let's just give me
Your
2 seconds here.
Thing go to sleep?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. I could buy more acrylic sheets and cut out windows. I think I just want to buy clear tubs. The problem is it's a substantial investment. I just have to do it.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of clear tubs. but I don't have Altus.
So, like, look at Canova. It would be great to have larger enclosures and clear tubs, but how many snakes does he have? That is not financially feasible to do. So we should be applauding small steps that he takes or other breeders take instead of.
It will make them feel more like they are being valued. Like people claim that they only want to buy from small batch breeders that breed in a specific way, like a certain sort of ethical standard. And I want that to be true, but in my experience, that is not true. And those people go out of business because people won't pay the premium that would need to be charged to keep animals at the highest welfare standards. What do you think about that?
I've toyed with this concept, and I've toyed with breeding quite a bit. But once you run the numbers, it makes absolutely no sense, especially trying to do it the way I would want to do it. Because if you're spending $2,000 on a setup, how are you going to defer that cost to your customers and still have customers?
Right. So people can do it for fun, like as a hobby, but they still won't even recoup their initial expenses for years because the market doesn't support these sort of tiered levels of care, like applied to the babies. It's just maybe like kind of good and like pet store. And so everybody gets clumped together, and almost all of those like highly ethical small batch breeders, most of the that were in my like cohort are already gone because it was too expensive to be like that. Yeah. Unfortunately, and I don't know.
That's very frustrating. So once again, trying to find a middle ground. There's no one who is advocating for that.
I don't know. I've heard some podcasts where they're advocating for like only small batch breeders, only ones that do the highest standard, and all we do is breed 10 ball pythons a year, basically, to supply the whole hobby.
Is that the middle ground for right now, though?
No. To me, the middle ground is like put a couple fake plants in there and make it a clear tub.
Yes, that is my middle ground too.
Right. Like that would be like a good step one. Yeah. And we'll worry about the rest of it.
Yeah. And it's great because I have 2 snakes, so I can care for them however I want. And they're in one is in a really nice enclosure and the other one's more in like a quarantine setup. But that's because I'm a keeper with 2 animals. If I was a breeder, I would not be having this viewpoint.
It's hard. Life's hard. I think like the boa standards have gotten better through the years. Like we used to fold up 10-foot boas into 4-foot cages pretty regularly in like the late 90s. Now 6-foot cages are very standard for adult female boas.
I think it could be bigger though.
Of course it could always be bigger.
I would say 8 foot. But...
I mean, for an 8-foot boa, sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of boas are smaller now because we bred them all to Nicaraguans. They're all 6 foot anyway.
Yeah. Like don't put a Tarahumara in an 8 foot with no cover, but
they'd probably be fine.
With no
boas
cover?
Are extremely bold. Like they will use hides, but a lot of times they will just sit like they were in the crook of a tree in the forest and just hunt fully exposed, like backed up to something. Some of them are like quite bold. It's like surprising. They don't give a fuck.
Are like the golden retrievers of snakes, I feel like.
That's
kind of down the good-hearted.
The boas are smart. What are you talking about?
Compared to a retic?
I've never kept a retic, so I wouldn't know.
I have the smallest bloodlines, the most pure bloodlines, so.
Is that like a sales pitch?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you're not in the retic world, that won't make sense. But.
Do you think people... Going back a little bit, do you think people should have spotters? Because we kind of talked about it.
Baby steps. So
baby steps.
Don't put a snake around your neck.
That's a good baby step.
It shouldn't have to be said, but especially people who are uncomfortable with snakes. Think of all the videos you've seen where, I'll throw this 20-foot retic around your neck, have fun. Don't do that. No matter how much experience you have, I think people will be amazed how quickly it can turn south without another person. I don't know what the correct size is, but I don't see a 10-foot standard for having a spotter as bad. But unfortunately, that's not reality. For
Should
a
it
lot
be
of people.
8 foot? Be honest.
If we're going on historical precedent and someone died from an 8-foot snake wrapped around their neck because they weren't supposed to be handling it.
All right, I'm going to
sense.
just tell you a story.
Please.
Don't tell anybody I told you this. I'm kidding. It's obviously live on the internet. But I had a 4-foot boa feed response my hand because I can't use tongs with boas because I would spread arenavirus. So I have to wear gloves and hold the food item, right? I don't have enough tongs to feed. So I take off gloves every time. It's a dumb thing that I do.
But you won't buy tongs?
I'd rather have them bite my hands than bite the tongs.
Tongs are like $8.
Yeah, I guess I could buy 70 tongs. You're right. But I just haven't. I only have like 15.
That's not
whatever. I wear gloves, right?
Okay.
Every time. We got to wear gloves to like change the cages anyway.
I know, but if you're just feeding.
Yeah. I should just like order them wholesale from China because they're probably like $2 and then sell them. All right, you're onto something. But anyway, so I got a feeding response bite from the snake. So I was coiled. It's only 4 feet long. So, but both hands were compromised eventually. And I had to I was running him under the sink and I'm like, he's not going to let go, but I couldn't grab like alcohol or something that would just be a little bit irritating in his mouth, but not kill him to get him to let go. And I was like, what if the snake was 10 feet or something?
Yeah.
So I ended up like using Siri to call my husband to get him to come out. But if he wasn't there, I would have had to like do some sort of procedure with my mouth to like dribble a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in my mouth, which would taste yucky because the water wasn't doing it, right? He didn't give a fuck about water.
You know what retic people do?
I don't
bite the tail.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there's YouTube videos on it.
Is that good though? Should we be like encouraging that?
Should you be biting snakes' tails? No. So,
thank you, Lisa. She's excited for your book. She wants you to sign it at Tinley. Wait, you're not going to be there. Can you mail signed ones?
Yeah, for Lisa, I will.
Okay, perfect.
No, she's part of Dan O'Leary's Patreon, so I like Lisa. I like listening to her podcasts. So, for you, Lisa, I will.
Thank you. Lisa appreciates it.
It's frustrating because there's so few people like you and Lisa, and obviously others.
What are we like, though? I'm not even sure.
Intelligent and open-minded. I mean, I'd listen to the podcast. I wouldn't listen to you if you were.
Oh, thank God.
Bad.
I wish, I don't know, people were just more interested in snakes and lizards for their essential snaky and lizardness. But a lot of them just aren't. So you have to be like, this is your new small business. This is your schmorf. You have to do that because that's what 90% of them are interested in.
Yeah.
So the only way to like get them over here or to get them to go herping or just to do anything else, to appreciate them in any other way, is to schmorf talk, which I mean, there's like an intellectual exercise there. But that's something I like worry about a lot, right? Like that's why my Owen ran away, right?
I want to ask you about that off the air. But
yeah, we can talk about it. But that was a large part of it. Is it gets boring to not schmorf for people who don't really just want to like beat off about snakes facts for the next 10 years or whatever it is we're doing right now, right?
But my retort, I mean, you brought up Owen. I think NPR does a fantastic job of this, but they've also adapted. So they are interested in the natural history. They are interested in advancing their ways. And you have a large ball python audience, and I don't necessarily see that, unfortunately. You know how cool Volta ball pythons are? And no one talks about them. Or
just regular ball pythons.
No, Voltas. Those are so cool.
Right, but they're all cool. It's okay. Like, they can be cool, too. Just like the animal itself could be cool.
Yes. So, it's frustrating to watch from the inside, or from the outside looking in.
Okay. The reason why I think I have, like, some kind of different insight on ball pythons is because I wasn't a ball python person. but I think
Yeah.
the ball python pipeline makes a kind of person
Oh,
who
absolutely.
struggles to like reach across the table and watch or listen to NPR and like get something from that. I think it's because that's a different kind of person, but some of them do, some do. And they like, even if they never get into carpets, they can hear, you know, collection building and husbandry tips and natural history. And they're interested in all those. Those are the ones I'm trying to save. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to throw the lifeline out. Like you can be a ball python person and be part of the hobby.
Yes.
Right. You're not just part of the ball python hobby.
And it's frustrating because there are so many other species that would entice them.
Oh my God. And they do get enticed, but they're too busy morph training to be like they might really like carpets or green trees or something. That's usually like some that they jump into, but they never do it because they're worried about morphing too much or whatever. Now I'm depressed. Anything? You got any happy facts?
Anything happy? Retics have the longest. They're the longest snakes of the world. They have the largest range. They have the largest variance in size of any snake. They're
the largest over yellow-bellied sea snakes?
I mean, how do you compare a 6-foot snake to a 26-foot snake?
I mean, you said range.
Oh yeah, range. Or I should say python. Okay,
well, python with the largest range.
Yeah.
Yellow-bellied sea snakes live fucking all over the place.
And they
like in terms of like sheer geographic range, they win.
Okay, largest range.
Keep going. Python. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's good. I like the fact checking, like because he keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, I'm a bitch. Keep going.
No, I'll talk about the book here just for a few. I'll do my promoting job after an hour and a half. I should finally actually talk about the book. No, thank you, Kagan.
Yeah, but to me, like, I don't know how to put this politely. I think she's doing a good job, but she does do a lot of like, we're breeding snakes and that's what's cool about them. She does do some like, we're going into the wild and herping and that's what's cool about them. It'd be cool if she made so much money she was like, that's all I'm gonna do. Like she could bring kids to wild places like with Dave Kaufman or something. That would be like step 2. She has a zoo. But instead it'd be like, I bred hognose together for the 14th time video. Like send her ass out. She'll do great. Just send her to Africa or something. Get her some armed guards. She's a national treasure. But
she is tall.
Yeah. I respect tall
women. I
women.
was very surprised when I saw her.
Right. It's like Galadriel. It's awesome.
It's cool. No, I think she's she's a net positive.
Yeah, for sure. But I want her to like sort of do what like Adam's doing, Wicked Reptiles.
I don't.
They're reducing their collection so they can go tour or whatever.
I don't care for him. Have you seen his politics?
No, I just like to me he seems like so Emily is targeting kids. Adam is targeting like teens. It feels like. Is that weird? Like his content is not for me. So I'm like, he's like top 5 blue reptiles you can buy, right? That's not content for me, but that's content for someone that they like. No.
Someone, I don't know.
Glenn says no.
No.
All right, you don't have
There's
to do
a line.
What line did he cross? How can you go wrong with top 5 blue snakes or whatever?
I'll tell you stuff.
Okay. Tell me later.
It's just
sorry.
Like personal.
So he's not into teens. Gosh, Jennifer. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like he has like a very young adult crowd that feels different. Have you ever been in his Discord? I had to leave that one too, right? But it feels very like 13 to 18 demographic or something.
The issue is I'm not far off from that range.
Okay. Wait, before you plug your book, this will be the last question. And it's the one I want to ask everybody from now on who is not a ball python keeper. Ready?
I am a ball python keeper, so sorry.
No, or not primarily a ball python keeper. What percentage of ball python tables at a show would you maximum percentage you think would be acceptable?
None.
Okay.
I got annoyed at Daytona And that is probably one of the more diverse shows.
Does it have to be none though? They are the #1 most popular pet reptile. Don't you want to serve that community too?
Yeah. So I got my first pet snake from a show from Brian Bartek, because that's who I was watching online. However, the more we are viewed as a monoculture, I would say it's the more dangerous for us. Because there's
Wouldn't it be a monoculture if there were no ball pythons? Something else would just replace it. Crested geckos or something.
The diversity in reptile keeping isn't typically showcased, and what I would consider the better parts of herpetoculture aren't well exemplified by the ball python community.
Correct. So, but also,
obviously,
the best parts of herpetoculture don't go to a shitty show.
Or just don't go to shows in general.
Yeah, it's a huge risk. Like, I don't want to ever see a chondro at a show, ever, of any age or origin. Like it, or emerald or basin or whatever. I don't like people.
If you see a basin at a show, call me, please.
No, it's probably already dead, right? It's got chlamydia. I'm not kidding.
Why are basins so expensive?
They all got chlamydia. I that's my assumption. They come in, they get Rieger disease, and they die. And
someone spent $60,000 on one.
What the fuck? We gotta get in the basin business. I'm saying a reptile show should be about first introductions, pets. So you think a ball python doesn't deserve to be in that category, or do you think ball python keepers aren't the first people they should be introduced to?
I think if you go to a reptile show, ideally it's more like a zoo, if that makes sense. You see a diversity, you can see what you like, you can see what you don't like. But if all you see are thousands of different ball pythons, how do you know that, oh, actually a carpet python is right for me? Oh, actually a corn snake is right for me? Because
so you would want one ball python vendor?
No, just maybe, a realistic number, 25%.
Okay, I think that's fine.
I think that's fair.
Like, that's what Reptile Nation's number looks like to me. Have you ever been to one?
No, I don't know where the closest one is.
Georgia?
They didn't have any in California that I was aware of.
Probably for you, it's Georgia. Well, or West Palm Beach.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty far.
Yeah. So they intentionally limit ball python breeders on purpose, and it looks to me about 25% because they are popular in different colors or whatever. But then they have almost anybody else can come, and just by default, everyone else is something slightly different, or at least a different mix. So 25% is pretty good to me. What about tables that are mixed ball python and one other species? Would that be acceptable or unacceptable? This is a very weird hypothetical universe where you're in charge of.
Ooh, that's scary. It's better than nothing, obviously. But species diversity is seemingly the way of the future. And I'd like to see more of that represented at shows. I know Weston takes his big snakes to the Reptilian Nation out in Utah. And, obviously you can have biosecurity concerns. However, as an educational opportunity, I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
I almost think a class of animals should be, so unfortunately, sacrificial lambs for the hobby, not your breeders.
Please don't take a breeder animal to a show. No.
Yeah, everybody recommends me that to sell corn snakes. I'm like, I would never take Mike Drop to a show. The thing is precious to me. I'm gonna get a giant 9x4 sign of her beautiful face. Take that instead, but I would never expose it to a show environment.
Yeah, no. So I think that hopefully the tide is changing where there's more educational opportunities. I think Tinley in October is supposed to have a speaker series.
They're bringing that back?
I hope so.
They had the gecko one last time.
I would much rather see one day where there's multiple different speakers for different species.
Yeah, Daytona normally runs it at the same time, right?
I don't know.
Or do they used to do that, or they stopped? Like they used to like have speakers concurrent with the show. So like you could go listen to a thing, walk out, talk to somebody, buy something, go listen to a thing. Am I making that up?
I
Or was
don't
that
know.
the old?
They did that at one point at the Anaheim and ARPC.
Because then it's more like a herpetological club meeting, right?
Which is awesome and what we need.
Yeah, but okay. Just kidding. Last question.
Okay.
Does making the hobby a business ruin or help the hobby? Is making whatever species you're working with, retics or whatever, does making a business where there's financial incentive help enough to make up for what we've lost?
I will say yes, even though it's counterintuitive. So I'll throw Lucas under the bus. Lucas has one of the best locality retic collections in the US. And the only reason he's been able to do that is because he runs a business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or invest in better care standards. You know what I mean?
Both simultaneously. So for retics, he is, at the forefront. He's been using UVB, getting bigger enclosures, utilizing shelves. So he does that alongside having a very nice collection. And even though there's a lot of talk about how the retic market is dead, he just sold his latest clutch almost entirely. I think he sold 20 snakes in 3 weeks at around $2,000 a pop.
Mm-hmm. So, don't you think that's because he did a good job being a business person who like
all of his snakes are selling?
Well, I mean, like he marketed his ethical standards. He's got a podcast. That's part of being a good business person too. Some people are really good at keeping it; they just don't talk.
Yeah,
ever.
I hope he's not listening, so he doesn't hear me say something nice.
Lucas, paging Lucas.
He's probably at work, but he can't hear me say nice things. I don't want that to go to his ego. But it's genuine, where it's easy to not be. It's easy to have a nice YouTube video. I wish short tails didn't spend all of their time buried in their substrate.
That's cool. I love talks. I do wish we had more like, flora fauna.
No.
It's a like crested gecko only show, but it's at a resort in upstate New York. Sweet. You can book your resort, and there's like they have activities like yoga on Sunday morning and talks, and there is some vending to help like defray the cost, but it's mostly like a crested gecko community get together premium reptile experience, but it's like New Caledonian. And I'm like, great. Every species that's like a clade go together. Like let's have like Carpet Fest, but like times 10.
Yeah.
Times 10. Like we'll all book a trip, and you can bring some stuff to sell to defer the cost of your business expense, but it's not really what it's about. It's more about like fellowship or whatever. I don't know who's in charge of this though. It's not me because I'm busy. That's what it feels like. It feels like we all need that.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is.
But look, everyone in chat, go look up a flora fauna schedule. Look at what they're doing. That's really good. Very inspiring. I love that they have community. And figure out if you can do that for your community. I guess is my request.
I think it would work well for boas, that there's enough people.
Oh, God. They're all so mean to each other, though.
Are they?
Yeah. Okay, so there's like... Okay. I won't talk about it. I'll just get in trouble. But there's different clades of boa people. I don't know if there's enough in each one. Because there's like morph ones and like locality ones. And then testing ones and non-testing ones. Because some of them don't even believe arenavirus is real. Or if it is real, it doesn't matter.
In boas?
Yeah.
The posted file for arenavirus.
Right. It's really cool and fun to be participating in the boa community. Because everyone's like, get a boa person on. And I'm like, I'm scared.
Have fit on.
I'm scared. Let me just repeat myself. I don't know. Don't get me in trouble, please.
Okay.
Just smile like this. I would have him on. It just, it's hard. I think arenavirus is real. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right. Last book sales pitch. Go.
Okay. Buy the book. That's my sales pitch. How to go. No.
It's awesome.
So I think this book will appeal far greater than just to a reticulated Python audience. If anything I've said even sounds remotely interesting, or if I sound remotely stupid, you should read the book out of hatred. Big fan of that. But I spend an entire chapter tracing the importation of one snake from Kelley Island all the way to the U.S., all the different stops it makes, the different paperwork that goes in. Chapstick.
Sorry. There's calls for chapstick, so I'm just keep talking.
You should sell that. I'm in it. Members channel.
I was on for real. I was on Etsy last night and like, can you like you get like custom chapstick for like bridal parties? I'm like, I'm gonna get something and give it away at Arlington. So if you come to my table at Arlington and buy a corn snake, you get some fucking hoe chapstick. All right, keep going. Keep talking.
Okay, yeah. So importation. If you're interested in how these snakes get from these very remote places to the U.S. and into our collections, that'll interest you. If you're interested in biosecurity at all, I'm a vet student. I worked with Fishhead Diagnostics on that chapter. I think it's very good, and it has a lot of actionables for people interested. Obviously, if they listen to your podcast, they know it. I can only imagine what the comments are saying, so I'm really good.
Some stuff.
Good. Morphs, obviously, lots of images of those. I went about it very differently, and I tried to trace the wild organs for all of them. So to connect it back to the wild, because it's very easy to get lost in the weeds there. If you're interested in natural history at all, that'll be front and center. If you're interested about insular dwarfism, that's discussed at length in there. It's seen very commonly in species like boas that are also well represented in the hobby. If you're interested in the deal color change in boas, I discussed that in retics. So if you are someone who is interested at all in those subjects, advancing their care, or just learning more about a species that's very traditionally misunderstood by them.
What about taxonomy?
Oh, taxonomy. That is a great subject because everyone gets it wrong. So yes, I discussed taxonomy at length. I discussed the taxonomic history. Even, Raymond Hoser gets a shout out. I've got probably the most complete captive history for the species. I did a 3-part interview on the Retic Lounge about that, but I have just a ton of these old images from, the Bronx Zoo, 1912. What else? I think that covers it.
What was the earliest known? I think I heard it on the podcast, but just repeat it just for fun. The earliest known keeping of a retic in captivity by the West. Someone from a Western country.
That would have been in the very early, keeping it for sure we knew about in the early 1800s. There was a circus in Britain, but it was, I think George Sewell was his name. He was the famed one with the Cabinet of Curiosities, who collected a lot of different specimens. We don't know if his were alive or dead, but there's interesting stuff like the very first likely reticulated python clutch in captivity. Stuff like that.
That part's cool. Like the history of keeping is cool.
Especially for retics.
All right, Clint. We did great. I bet you're sweaty.
I'm a little warm, and I'm just sweaty because I'm so chungus. So,
well, we can't all be not chungus, right? So.
Taco Bell is a little too good, and life is a little too long. So I will balance them out.
That's true.
Thank you for surviving with my technical difficulties and letting.
Yeah, it was a little crazy for a minute. I was like, "Oh no, are we doing 2 hours of whatever?" But we did it. All right, let's wave like this. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for all the super chats. You're beautiful, Andrew. Chris,
thank you, Andrew.
Chris,
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kagan.